With the recent onslaught of Marvel TV shows, there's been a lot of talk brewing about the quality of the MCU in general. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it mid? Has it always been like this, or is it uniquely tedious right now? I have my own opinions about the mix of quality in recent entries, but that's not what this video is about. My relationship to the MCU has been the same one I have with most big franchises. Never expecting anything groundbreaking, usually fun, and sometimes allowing us to experience really cool pop culture moments. But even within the range of projects, for me, the MCU is the MCU. I always know more or less what to expect. But all this talk about the new Marvel direction made me think back to the project that overturned all my expectations. So I want to return to Marvel's first foray into TV, and why WandaVision is still my favorite thing the MCU has ever done. I've been something of a neutral MCU fan. I've liked some things, loved others, been completely indifferent to others still. But across the board, the thing I always felt the MCU could do better was character work. And to a degree, it's understandable. These are plot-driven superhero movies. But whether because of the nature of the superhero genre or an over-reliance on comic familiarity, MCU characterization often felt half-baked to me. This isn't to say that character studies didn't exist, but aside from Steve and Tony, many characters remained pretty basic for a long time. And it makes sense. Movies juggling a packed cast can only focus on a few fan favorites. But that's why the Age of Ultron scene was such a hit that it spawned an entire era on Tumblr. It gave us extended time with these characters just hanging out with each other. This is the downtime that lets us actually know who these people are, so when we see them in high-stakes situations, we're even more invested in what happens to them. But on the flip side, when big emotional moments are built around characters and dynamics that hadn't been given the time to develop, I feel bored and cheated. You want an emotional reaction from me, but you haven't done a fraction of the work to get me to care? Do better. Wanda and Vision were two prime examples of this phenomenon. Their tragic, beautifully scored moment in Infinity War was fine, but it was also confusing. It's a conceptually heart-wrenching scene, but I just hadn't gotten enough time with them to feel what seemed like the intended impact.
We are out of time.
Wait a minute! Who are you?
Yes, Wanda and Vision are a long-established pairing in the comics, but I shouldn't have to read the comics to experience this cinematic moment as intended. There's nothing wrong with basing something on previous material, but you have to assume that at least a portion of your film audience will be seeing this for the first time. With Wanda and Vision's climactic moment, the building blocks for good drama are there. He has to be destroyed, the magic of the woman he loves is the only way to do so. Poetic irony. But other than that, what real time had we spent with them? The moment is perfect drama on paper, but I don't know these people. So when I heard that they were announcing a whole show built around Wanda and Vision, I internally rolled my eyes. Why would I care about their show? I ended up watching WandaVision in the span of a day. I started around 5 p.m. and I didn't stop until I finished late in the morning. WandaVision did what, for me, I thought was impossible. An MCU property surprised me. Also, it made me believe in an MCU pairing. The show not only subverted my expectations for the MCU, but out of a skeleton of what came before, built one of the most thoughtful bits of storytelling I've ever seen. I love what this show has to say, and how it chooses to say it. First and foremost, WandaVision is a pure character study, leagues above what came before, and the kind I'd been craving for so long, especially for the women in Marvel. Wanda is the plot. For the majority of the show, we are literally inside her head. Any external problems the Hex causes are a direct result of Wanda's emotions. The plot develops from Wanda's choices, rather than the infuriating inverse, in which character choices are dictated by the plot. Here, pretty much for the first time, Wanda and Vision feel like complete people. From episode 1, the show was just so alive. Their dialogue is legitimately charming, not just the easily dunkable MCU quipping, but witty, fun, and somehow still grounded. I believe that these are people talking. Which also results in one of the most believable MCU pairings on screen. We're not just told that they love each other, we're shown why they do. We finally see why these two work together as well as they do. They're both kind of trying to figure out how to be people at the same time. They're both outsiders who create their own new normal together, endeared by each other's quirks. And it makes perfect sense that Vision, the AI who adores humanity, of course would fall in love with this passionate mess of a woman who embodies the best and the worst of it. And best of all, here we get to see them experience and work through actual conflict. And it speaks to the realism of this relationship that one of my favorite Wanda and Vision scenes is their fight. And all of this makes this loss at the end of the show infinitely more impactful than the one in Infinity War. By this point, we've actually gotten to know their dynamic and gotten attached to it. Not only does the show do great character work on its own, it does so by taking throwaway moments from earlier films and shapes them into a coherent arc. Case in point, Pietro's death. His sacrifice in Age of Ultron, while framed dramatically, was something of a footnote, especially because we didn't know him or Wanda very well, so we can't go into full depth. But in WandaVision, this is fully unpacked. WandaVision finally addresses how much Wanda has lost in the background of other movies, and what kind of emotional damage that would morph into. What if this person who was only valued for her powers never got the space to forge her own identity? What would it look like if this radicalized, lonely young woman found companionship and lost it again? So it's not just that Wanda escapes to a sitcom because she's delusional and doesn't want to face reality. The show pushes further. What are the aspects of sitcoms, and why would they be especially appealing to a person like Wanda? Which leads me to the other thing I love. How this show says what it says. I was blown away by the way that WandaVision uses genre to enhance its emotional narrative. First of all, the attention to detail is ridiculous. Each decade's jingle, the little openings, the costuming, sound design, style of humor, it just fits together so well. Some TV shows, including Marvel, can just feel like long movies, but WandaVision couldn't have been anything other than a TV show, and it knows it. We aren't just traversing eras of TV as a fun gimmick, there's a psychological reason why. It's the specific qualities of sitcoms that offer Wanda something she needs. In one word, sitcoms are characterized by predictability. Or, in other words, safety.
It is funny because of the grievous injury the man just suffered.
No, he's not really injured.
Ah. How can you be certain?
It's not that kind of show.
So it had to be sitcoms. Not just because they remind Wanda of her family, but because of the kinds of stories that sitcoms tell. There's some established normal that doesn't really change. Mishaps occur, but they're usually funny, light, and never serious. Nothing too bad can ever really happen. That's the stability Wanda desperately craves. In the real world, her and Vision's powers are these universe-altering forces that have ensured their own misery. But now she creates a place where their powers are just fun little quirks to bond over. For Wanda, who's been kicked in the face by the cold indifference of the universe over and over and over, of course safe, boring TV shows would be her exact place to hide. Not only that, but a place where she's writer, director, and producer. No longer will her life be dictated by outside forces, now she's fully in charge. And I love how this is built into every single detail. Dramatic moments can be softened into cute jokes.
My husband and his indestructible head.
Scenes that get too uncomfortably close to reality get reshot. Conflict can be drowned out by rolling credits. Even the way Wanda uses the interview style of the 2010s as she becomes more self-aware about the broken fourth wall of Westview. And yet, just like the more we repress a thought, the harder it comes for us, Wanda's deepest fears and regrets still manage to find the cracks in her fantasy. So brilliantly, these biggest regrets manifest as commercials, intrusive interruptions of her regularly scheduled programming, advertising the things she's trying her hardest to look away from. All of these things merge the content with the style of the show so that they're in perfect harmony. The what and the how enhance each other, because the TV show setting also works as a stage for Wanda's own attempt at self-discovery. Until now, Wanda really hasn't had the chance to ask herself who she is. She lost her family and then was passed around like a weapon hot potato until her life fell apart. And for the most part, this life has been dictated by forces outside her control. Choices have been made for her and defined by others around her. But now she has her stage, complete with actors, costumes, soundtracks, and all sorts of new personas to try on, making Westview not just an escape, but a way to reconnect with who she is and what she likes for maybe the first time in years. She can try on identities in a perfectly controlled environment, where she still has her powers, those are still a part of her, but now she's a member of a community with neighbors and wacky hijinks. In each scenario she creates, she always writes a plot line that has something to do with learning to fit in. And I love the moment in episode 8 when we pull back and see the cameras. The fourth wall literally breaks, revealing a crucial idea. If Wanda has been performing, performance requires an audience. The people of Westview aren't just background characters, they're crucial to this whole thing working. They're her witness, they validate her coping mechanism by reacting and participating in it. And this is exactly what I mean. The TV show setting is used to its absolute fullest to extract every sweet bit of meaning out of it. And not only that, sitcoms are also her last connection to the innocent, undamaged part of herself. This was the last thing she knows she likes. So, in addition to everything else, sitcoms are a link to one of her last bits of self-expression. Even something as trivial as choosing what to watch with her family.
Season 2, Episode 21.
Always sitcom, sitcom, sitcom.
The way Wanda uses stories to understand herself is something that's pretty universal. Her version is especially dramatic because she has superpowers, but how many times have we watched a show to relive a past time in our life? I remember rewatching Buffy for the first time in years in 2019, and how it felt like rediscovering myself again. And so the show takes on this delicious meta quality and becomes about stories, about their cathartic power, and about the way we preserve parts of ourselves within the amber of a particular piece of media. WandaVision subverts any ideas of straightforward superhero story morals. Wanda gets to be so many things at once. She could easily be considered both protagonist and antagonist of her own story. We see the full extent of the kind of damage she can cause. She's furious, selfish, and vindictive. And at the same time, she's never dehumanized. By the end of the show, we've been given such an intimate tour into the tragedy of Wanda's life that we know exactly how we got to this point. So, the fact that Wanda's grief balloons to literal exploding size to the point that it reshapes reality isn't all that surprising. And then we get the flip side. Wanda's in pain, but the actions she takes to suppress that pain end up hurting people. There's the phrase, hurt people, but I think it goes deeper than that. Because it's not even that she's lashing out. She's just so focused on protecting herself at all costs that other people just end up being collateral damage. Her heartbreak is too enormous to feel.
It's just like this wave washing over me again and again. It knocks me down, and when I try to stand up, it just comes for me again.
So at whatever point she realized the mental torment that she was causing, the alternative, undoing the hex and having to face the wreckage of her life, would have felt like a non-option. I love how this plays out. She's genuinely horrified by what she's done. And this is a consistent trait for Wanda. She certainly doesn't like hurting people, but Wanda is a character of extremes and doesn't know the scope of her abilities. Her grief is too powerful, her coping mechanism is too powerful, and with power that scale, people often end up in the middle. None of this is an excuse for her torture of the people of Westview, but this makes for an incredibly compelling, incredibly human story. People, especially those without the tools and support to process healthily, will go to enormous lengths to avoid pain. And the show fully embraces the inherent messiness of this kind of story. Time and again, it shows us how multiple, contrasting things might be true at the same time. Wanda is a victim, and she makes victims of other people. She is sympathetic and destructive. both of these are Vision. Rather than be focused on giving us a clear moral answer, the show just gives us many things to consider. Let's remember, Wanda's doing all this because she feels, and functionally is, completely alone. Everyone she's ever loved has been ripped away from her. The world knows her as a dangerous weapon, and she has little reason to see herself any other way. With a walking internal conflict of a main character, the show poses the same question to us. Had we gone through the same things, felt this same immeasurable grief, and had the power to fix it? Magic linked to our overwhelming emotions? Might we be capable of the same thing? These are juicy thoughts to posit, especially as we see more and more stories about traumatic experiences and to what extent they excuse destructive behaviors. I do have more to say on this topic generally, which I'll probably put in a separate video. Unsurprisingly, because of what I loved about WandaVision, I did not like Multiverse of Madness very much. But other YouTubers have already covered those reasons pretty comprehensively, so I urge you to just watch those. I think the issues have already been addressed at length, so I don't really want to discuss it too much. Also because, for me, WandaVision just stands on its own. Character inconsistency is just the sort of unfortunate byproduct of a universe as extensive as Marvel's. Different writers and directors will conceive of and write characters differently across a single universe, with differing results. It just kind of is what it is, and I'm not here to unearth horse bones for further brutalization. The very things that make WandaVision my favorite Marvel project are the things that set it apart from the MCU formula. This isn't to say that WandaVision is this completely unique piece of media. It's still very much part of the genre, but it has such a solid, focused thesis that I haven't seen matched yet. It also subverts a lot of what the universe has done up to now. Both within the story and outside it, Wanda was treated mainly like a plot device and a source of power. The show takes this kind of character and not only acknowledges her personhood, but puts it under the microscope. Because before then, Wanda was very much a means to an end. Which is kind of how Marvel projects can feel at their worst sometimes. Stale, emotionally hollow vehicles for big, shiny crossovers. But WandaVision isn't about getting anywhere. The best parts of the show aren't those that lead to something bigger, they're the parts that don't change anything. The largest distance from point A to point B happens within Wanda. She loves, loses, makes a mess, and ends up exactly where she started, in the same unbuilt foundations of a house she and Vision will never grow old in. Think about it. The show could have achieved the same ends by having Wanda unlock her power in whatever way. She's angry, tries to resurrect Vision, Agatha finds her, and some other plot ensues. But this, the sitcom angle, pinning stylistic elements to a psychological source, this is completely in service of a character study. White Vision is out there now, Monica has her powers, but for the most part, we haven't done all that much, except accompany Wanda on her inner journey. Yes, by the end she's become the Scarlet Witch, but that all could have been accomplished by many means. That's her comic destiny. Instead, the show decides to pause to give us a careful, detailed look into the human heart. And it's done so well and so earnestly that I don't care about the nothing that came before and the disaster that comes after. This remains peak Wanda in her purest form so far. Not a slasher villain, not a plot device in service of another story. Wanda. And so the finale isn't even really an ending, but a first chapter. She hasn't fully healed. She's just in a place where she might finally start to discover herself. Which is why I really hope we do see more of her, because this feels like just the beginning. And above all, this is a story so fully made of love. The love it's made with, and the love it's about. The destructive power of love, for which Wanda would shut out the rest of the world, override the free will of others, and trap herself in a delusion. And its transformative power. Her love enough for her family to set things right, but not for them. To accept loss and despair as a part of being human, and accept that even the Scarlet Witch isn't exempt from this.
But a thing isn't beautiful because it lasts.
WandaVision knows what it is, and what it's trying to do. I haven't sworn off the MCU entirely, and I probably never will. I'll probably still watch most things, just not with the same urgency. And I look forward to being surprised again. But until then, WandaVision still takes my top spot.
I read somewhere that it's bad luck to say goodbye in the dark.
No, you didn't. You are my sadness. And my hope.
Because it can't all be sorrow, can it?
But mostly you're my love.